So we also want to think about the prefixes. The prefixes indicate scale or the size of the unit. We notice that we've got kilo represents 1,000 base units, hecto represents 100 base units, deca represents 10 base units. Then we got the base units. Deci represents a tenth of a base unit. Centa represents a hundredth of a base unit. Milla represents 1,000th of a base unit. And then we've got abbreviations: K for kilo, H for hecto, DA for deca, D for deca, C for centa, and M for milla. And so we notice that for distance, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, 1 hectometer is 100 meters, 1 decameter is 10 meters, 1 meter is, unsurprisingly, 1 meter, 1 decimeter is 0.1 meters, 1 centimeter is 0.01 meters, and 1 millimeter is 0.001 meters. And then you notice that we could also have abbreviated any of these. 1 millimeter we could write as 1 mm. You notice that the fact that m is for meter and for milla could cause confusion, but if we see 1m, we know that means 1 meter. It never means 1 milla. 1 milla just doesn't have any meaning. So if we want to convert between metric measurements, we can use a nice number line. We notice that if we have our prefixes kilo, hecto, deca, base units, deca, centa, milla, we notice that we can just move a decimal point left and right. So if we have 4 kilometers, the decimal point can just move, and we want to know how many meters, we can just move 3 to the right. We get from 4 kilometers, we go 1, 2, 3 to the right to get 4,000 meters. If we had 12 millimeters, and we want to get decimeters, we just move 1, 2 to the left to get 0.12 decimeters. Alternatively, we could look at the staircase model, where we notice that going from kilo to hecto is a factor of 10. So to get from kilo to hecto, we have to divide by 10. To get from hecto to kilo, to get from kilo to hecto, we multiply by 10. To get from hecto to kilo, we divide by 10. So we notice that, for instance, 243 decameters to kilometers, we have to say 243 divided by 10 to get to hectometers, and then that's going to be 24.3 hectometers. Then we can say that's going to be 24.3 divided by 10 kilometers, and so we get 2.43 kilometers. And so we get 2.43 kilometers out of that 243 decameters. If we run the other direction, if we had 174 kilometers and we wanted to turn that into meters, let's use decimeters. Make it a little harder. We notice now we're going to multiply by 10 to get to hectometers. That's going to be 1740 hectometers. That's going to be 17,400 decameters. Then that's going to be 4,000 meters. And so that finally gets us to 174,000 decimeters. And so you notice that's pretty much why we have the prefixes. We notice that trying to say 1,740,000 decimeters to get from one city to another, when you could just say 174 kilometers, it makes much more sense to use kilometers. And so in general, we're going to use, if we're actually measuring things on a map, or when we're measuring things around our house, we actually notice that we can actually think about what scale is most appropriate. We notice between places in a city, between locations in a city, we're probably going to use kilometers. Looking at a yard around the house, so I should say outside of the house, we might want to use meters. So we notice that two places, so two businesses could be 12 kilometers apart. Outside of the house, we use meters. We notice that a lot could be 15 meters across by 30 meters long. Inside the house, if we're looking at a desk, so objects on a desk, we'd probably want to use centimeters or meters. Centimeters or millimeters. We notice that a pencil could be 10 centimeters long and 2 centimeters diameter. We might have a bead could have diameter of 8 millimeters. And so you notice that if we have that bead with 8 millimeter diameter, what would that be in kilometers? We notice that 8 millimeters would be, to get that to kilometers, we'd wind up getting, we'd have to divide it by 10 to get 0.8 centimeters, 0.08 decimeters, so let's write it down, 0.8 centimeters, 0.08 decimeters, 0.008 meters, 0.0008 decameters, 0.1234008 hectometers, and that finally gets to 5 zeros, 0.12345, 5 zeros, then an 8 kilometers. And so you notice that you really don't want to talk about a bead for a necklace having a diameter of 0.000008 kilometers when you could have just said 8 millimeters. We also notice how much space do we have. We can also think of these in terms of exponents. We notice that kilo prefix we can also think of as being 10 to the third. Hecto we can think of as being 10 squared. Deca, 10 to the first. Base unit is 10 to the 0th, which is 1. 1/10th is the same thing as 10 to the negative 1. 100th is the same thing as 10 to the negative 2. 1000th is 10 to the negative 3. And so that's a spot where this can get a little more convenient. We notice that we could have also thought of that 8 millimeters as being 10 to the negative 1, 2, 3. Whoops. We can think of that as being 8 times 10 to the negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 10 to the negative 6 kilometers. That gets into scientific notation. We're not going to play with that too much, if at all. And you notice it's still an inconvenient notation. We really don't want to think about the diameter of a bead in kilometers. So we actually notice that that system of prefixes that we just showed for length works for anything. So we notice that if we had 58 kiloliters, and we want to know how many, let's just say regular liters it is, we know that we're just going 3 to the right. So we know that it's going to be 580 hectoliters. We know it's going to be 5,800 decaliters, and so that gives us 58,000 liters, and we could also just go on 3 to the right. We start with that 58 kiloliters, and we just imagine the decimal point moving 1, 2, 3 to the right to get liters. And if we had, say, 437,000 milliliters, not a good way to have it measured, and we wanted to know how many deciliters that was, we notice that we just move 2 to the left. So we can start with that 437,000, move 1, 2 to the left, and that's going to give us deciliters. So we get 4,370 deciliters. And then just for comparison's sake, if we had 483 grams and we want to convert that to blank hectograms, again we just move 2 to the left, we get 4.83 hectograms. And again, we just look at that 483, move 1, 2 to the left to get from grams to hectograms, and we get 4.83 hectograms.